Thank you for clicking on a video from me, the guy who makes videos then talks about how hard it was to make them. I'm going to do something simple this video. I haven't put anything out in a while, I'm feeling mentally under the weather, and I just want to talk a bit and show off some Iceborne gameplay. So there won't be a lot of fancy editing, very little in the way of transitions or anything like that. I just want to talk about a line from a movie and how I related it into my own way of living my own life. So with all the preamble stuff out of the way, what's the movie line? Here it is. During a crucial moment in Fight Club.
You decide your own level of involvement.
I've watched Fight Club a number of times. I think it's a neat film with interesting context and subtext. Personally, I enjoy it most for the end reveal, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for that line about the level of involvement. So how did I spin this line into something that means more than how it's used in the context for this movie about building fascism and terrorist cells? Deciding one's level of involvement with anything in their life is a crucial element to personal safety, whether that safety is physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. What this line says to me is that you are the sole arbiter of your own existence and how you interact with others, and how you let them continue to interact with you. So let's talk about that a little. Friendships and communities are crucial to a person's development. Unfortunately, sometimes people aren't always what we think they are. What do you do when someone close to you betrays you? What do you do when your friend or someone that you thought was your ally does something to hurt you? I had a friend who I was really close with once upon a time. My family was in a slightly vulnerable position, and this friend did something at our house that put us all in potential danger. He made this decision without talking to me about it first, even though I was awake. When he caught out in his mistake, it was on me because he was my guest for extended periods of time. In the end, I cut that friendship off and have never went back. I decided that my level of involvement needed to be reduced to 0. You have many options, but ultimately you're the one who makes those choices. You decide your own level of involvement. You ultimately have to make the decision to either forgive them, work with them, or if the cost is too great, the benefit too little, the harm too much, abandon them, break off the connection, and leave them behind. If someone constantly ghosts you, then maybe you'll let that slide a few times. Eventually, though, you may get tired of it and let that friendship fall away. That's more or less a situation that happened to me. No matter what you do, you have to make that decision. Even if you make no conscious decision and let the matter slide into the past, that is still your decision. This goes past simple friendships. This goes to your relationship with your family as well. You can confront your family's wrongdoings or step away. You can choose to reward them, buy gifts, return favors, or do none of that. Sometimes you need to have long, complicated talks with a family member, but their reactions or lack of action afterwards may make those conversations feel like a waste of time. Ultimately, it is up to you to make the decision about what you do. You decide your own level of involvement. It also goes along with how you interact with the various companies and corporations that exist in our social and economic sphere. Maybe you're appalled at how Amazon treats their workers in their fulfillment centers. Maybe you're frustrated at microtransactions and the minimum viable product model of many video game companies. It could just be that every time you go to a certain McDonald's, you always get your food late, it's wrong, and the management doesn't seem to give a
Language.
You ultimately have to decide whether or not to allow those interactions to continue. If you don't like the way a company is run, you have the ability, most of the time, to not give them your money, to not give them your time or attention. Personally, I try not to spend a lot of time thinking about or talking about EA because the way they handle their business frustrates me. I don't like it, so I try my best not to think about them. I don't give them money, I don't buy their games. The most I do is occasionally watch a video about the releases so that maybe I can point and laugh. On the flip side, I respect how Warframe usually treats their customers and how they've framed their business model. They don't always get things 100% correct, but they do try to do better. I allow them the freedom to make mistakes without tearing them a new hole because they've earned my respect, and that's where I've set my level of involvement. One of the places that this philosophy is most important, however, is the workplace. I worked at a place for 2 years. I'll call it Workplace A. Workplace A did not give me a raise for almost 2 years. I worked under 3 different general managers at Workplace A, and never got a review, never got a raise, even though they were apparently supposed to happen every 6 months. I still decided, if passively, to continue to work there. Why? The work was easy, the environment flexible, and even if it didn't pay well, I was still able to subsist on it, even if I did want more. When it was no longer viable to work there, however, I had no qualms with quitting. On the flip side, one of the jobs I had before that, Workplace B, was a pretty dope place to work at. The work was hard, but they paid much better. It also had a lot of overtime, and I was able to learn and blossom in that environment. Working there was hard, frustrating, and also one of the most profitable and rewarding times I've had, aside from my mental state at that time. During my time working there, my first review got my pay boosted $2 per hour, which may not seem like a lot to some, but for me it was a breathtaking experience that made me feel so completely seen that I couldn't believe it. I only stopped working there because I wanted to get out of a situation that I could see coming, and to this day, I kind of regret leaving that job. I worked hard there because I felt appreciated. And now, at my current place of work, I try to work to the best of my ability. I go above and beyond whenever I can, learning things, taking extra opportunities, and making myself as valuable as possible in my own bid to get a promotion. In fact, I just had my interview for getting said promotion. Soon I will find out whether or not it has all been worth it. If it has, I will continue to do my best at working my ass off. If my hard work hasn't, if all I get is the same paycheck that I've been getting since my last review, then I will have to figure out if I need to reevaluate how I feel about working there, and how much I will continue to go above and beyond, or if I will at all. Because ultimately, I decide my own level of involvement, and I personally always need to be reevaluating that. Odds are I'll keep working hard though. They've been pretty good to me there, and I generally feel like I'm valued and respected. This philosophy can even affect your hobbies and entertainment. After all, we all decide whether or not we're going to finish watching a series, a movie, or finish reading a book, finish a painting, a video. Are you going to 100% that video game, or are you just going to beat the story? Maybe you'll leave it unfinished or never played at all. Buy that DLC or not, you always have the right to choose not to finish something if you don't want to. Personally, I've made the decision to play Warframe for 7,000 hours. I also made the decision to stop playing Wolfenstein Youngblood not because of the gameplay, but because of the company who owns it. As for another game recently, I've absolutely adored Death Stranding, and have been a little bit of a completionist with it, so beating it is taking a lot of time. I also decide on what other YouTube people I subscribe to with the expectation that I'll hopefully never need to unsubscribe for some reason, but I've had to at least once. Why? Well, in that case, it's because calling someone lazy when they're putting forth tons of effort into making something when you're doing something that requires much less effort just really left a bad taste in my mouth. Sometimes I go back and finish movies and stuff that I started and wasn't able to finish because, hey, it's something that I really enjoyed and I want to finish it. I get to decide my own level of involvement. So how can you put this into your own life? Odds are you already do to some extent. You might be holding yourself back, though. That might be due to societal stigma, or maybe some Maxim 1 problems, which is fair. Maxim 1 is from a book within a webcomic. Maxim 1 says, pillage, then burn, and basically equates to most people in the realm of get what you can before you burn a bridge with someone or something. There'll be a link to the 7 maxims of maximally effective mercenaries in the description thing if you care to look through it. It's from a good webcomic, Schlock Mercenary. Anyways, this is one of those things that's important to realize that you can control how you interact with others. That's not to say that it's always perfect. Sometimes there's retaliation from others, sometimes mistakes can be made, and sometimes a decision may need to be walked back. That's just part of life, however. Just remember that you hold personal responsibility over your decisions, and you have to be the impetus of the change in your life. It's important to remember that it's not purely negative, too. It's the positive as well. It's the passive decisions to maintain your friendships. It's extending outwards and making new friends, increasing your network. It's continuing to follow up with people about the things that they're doing in their free time. It's tipping your servers consistently for jobs well done. It's being honest with the people around you. It's continuing to give a company your business because their product or service is good. There's some caveats associated with this as well. Sometimes we are a little powerless to change things. After all, not all of us can cast off our family bonds without putting ourselves in harm's way. Most people can't ditch a job at a moment's notice when something rubs them the wrong way. You can't even always choose what companies we support. If you don't like Walmart, but the only place to buy groceries is Walmart, then you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Hell, mental health is one of those things that takes away some of our agency to truly choose. Addiction can make it more difficult to recognize the harm being done to us by others. Many of the other effects in life can do the same as well. You can still be the arbiter of change, however. These factors just make it so much more difficult. I recognize many of the caveats around this. Philosophy is rarely perfect. Well, it's probably never perfect. Anyways, I think it's about time to fade to black and get on with the last part of the video. So, how hard was this to make? If I did what I said I was going to do during scripting, it will hopefully have been moderately simple. A few transitions, 1 or 2 movie clips, and the rest is a matter of writing, speaking, and pasting in some Monster Hunter. The writing was part of the challenge here. I don't want to get into the specifics of my real life too much on this channel, but you can't relate to something like this without making some real-world examples. So, taking away some of the names and a few other of the final details was necessary. After all, I don't need to get sued or fired over my little hobby. So, a simpler video. Am I happy with it? I expect I will be, because I'm going to finish the script and then make the most of what I have. Although this fan grinding in my computer is going to have some effect on the audio process. Not much I can do about that though, I'm sorry. Hopefully the video at least provided you with some insight, and maybe you can tell me about some of the times when you've decided your own level of involvement. They can be as personal or impersonal as you want to make it. Me? I'm going to hunt a giant monster, swing a giant sword, work my butt off, make another episode of Off the Meta, all while deciding my own level of involvement.